Last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Let's welcome him to the show, Gonzalo Corzo, G of Cash Geeks. What's up, baby?
Have tougher conversations with yourself. That is what my theme has been this year, and having true tough conversations, calling yourself out. I feel like I used to have the army of wholesaling, and now I just want to have the freaking Navy SEALs. If I look at the pressure of having to close 10, 15, 20 deals a month, everybody's like, man, I would love to get there. But I got to the point where I had to close 20 deals a month, and it's crazy, right, to even say that.
Yeah, you weren't even thinking about scaling down.
Correct.
It was to get even bigger and bigger.
Absolutely.
Now that you did that, you're like, well, wait a second. Actually, we're in a better position than we were before.
Most people want to scale up, and they're scared to scale down because they're no longer going to be doing the revenue numbers that they were doing before. It's all ego.
This version of G, I love the best. This is my favorite version.
When you have so much going on, you don't have breathing room. You don't have time to figure out, what do I want to do with my life? Right? Like, I don't have time to think like that. I need to close 30 deals this month. Just because you have a very successful business doesn't mean you have a deeper purpose. Just buying houses is just comes naturally, and it's all I know. It's what I've done my entire adult life. I'm feeling a thrill of actually buying houses. How do I want my company to be, but how can I use that to have a lifestyle that I want?
I want to create my life, and I want to build my business around that.
That's the way that I'm perceiving it, right? It's like I had the grind season. Don't get me wrong, I'm still grinding every day. Right now, what is helping me and guiding me through this is my wife. My wife was like helping me navigate and guide what I want out of my life. And so she's been like a freaking rock through all this.
The Al Nicoletti shirt,
Ooh, okay.
show mug, and shirt.
Oh, dude, this is nice.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
We got the mug right here.
Boom.
Look at that.
Oh, I love it. I came prepared too.
Oh, what do you have?
I got you a little something.
Ooh.
The new and improved.
Oh.
You know? Little.
Ooh, look at this.
Yeah,
I
man.
love it. Look at this.
That's for you, bro.
I'm going to put this on for sure, man.
Hell yeah,
Thank
man.
you, man.
No, this is awesome.
This is great.
Boom. Dude, remember we had collab shirts?
Yeah, that was crazy.
Dude, I'm going to make a new one.
Man, I had so much fun having G in the studio. And I watched that episode while I was on the road last week, and just seeing that from afar and actually being in the studio, like just two different perspectives. And I felt like that conversation was so deep, so needed for a lot of the entrepreneurs out there. And it's so great to see what G has been doing over the last 3 years. And if you missed any of that episode, you got to go back and check that out. You know, Mike, I saw the recap. And it's two things. One, I think I need a microphone for like everywhere I move, because I don't know, that microphone wasn't picking up my things. So I need to have a microphone moving around. But then just the whole recap, like putting that together, looked awesome. Like that was fantastic. I love seeing that recap. Like, we do the recaps, just so you know, because we want you all to see who is on the prior week. We want you all to check that person out, what they're doing. And these are big people in our industry that are just changing the game, whether it's real estate, mindset, you name it. So check out that. And you can catch all the amazing content on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Audible. You can catch it out on YouTube, Facebook. The show goes live, and we've done some pre-records in studio. You'll see that once in a while, but the lives, we're live now. Check all that out. And of course, you can catch all the content on probates, quiet titles, partitions, all that stuff on Instagram, YouTube, all that. So we have another banger in the studio tonight. And I can't wait to bring on Nick, because when it gets going with Nick, man, he just like pops off. He's got so much knowledge, so much practical advice for people in the industry and what people are doing as an entrepreneur. And I really relate to him, and I want to jump in on that. So I can't wait to get started. I love Teresa when she's in the studio. I love Teresa. I see you. I love it. We're going to get started. I got my pen. I got my paper. I'm ready to take notes. So let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate, and always bring in the best in the game to talk about how you can really change your game in your business, whether it's real estate, mindset, entrepreneurship, or whether you're on a journey to really change and transform your business, on how we can help you take your business to the next level. On my show, I have Nicholas Nick. And when we get going with Nick, this thing's just going to roll for an hour. And we're going to get into that. But opening thoughts, I got to say the last 2 weeks have been really crazy traveling around. So the last 2 episodes with Tim and Gonzalo were both pre-records because I was out on the road. I was in Tampa at Family Mastermind. I saw Nicholas Nick there. And I was at another little meetup. I went to Land Profit Generator, spoke there. Then I went down to Fort Lauderdale, Miami, and I spoke at the multifamily conference. And talk about just buzzing around the state for the last 2 weeks. It's really crazy. And these are opening thoughts. I don't even know if I just said that right now. We're going to definitely get to that. I've been buzzing around the last 2 weeks. It's crazy because you have all these things lined up, all these events lined up. And at Family Mastermind, let's start there. Family Mastermind, I had just gotten in like an hour before just walking in the conference. And all of a sudden I sat down and Matt Andrews and Christina Kraus are on stage talking about the award for Collabby. They called it the Collabby Award for Best Podcast. And I was so happy that Dean and I won the award. We share the award for Best Podcast, won the Collabby. And it's so great that we get to do that. What a team effort. Michael Williams, Taylor Nasta, the whole team. James Hotchkiss too, man, with that banger opening. I mean, the whole team. It's crazy. I texted Mike like right away that when we won that award, it was wild. So there was that and just traveling around. But and then the multifamily conference, speaking at that. And here's the point about this. The point is that none of that would have been possible without truly being organized. And shout out Mom to actually bringing this up before I left Miami. She was like, you got to bring this up. So true. None of that would have been possible without focus and organization and being able to prepare yourself for being at those types of events, being in those moments, right? Even the prep for the show, even getting organized for the show, being organized is something that you must continually work on, not just in your business, but personal life. Because when you get your personal life organization together, it translates to your business and you perform at a higher level. I will tell you, over the last 6 months, I have performed at a higher level because I have maintained organization. And it's crazy because if you ask my mother, was I organized when I was 15, 20, 25? The answer is no. And I don't know when it happened, but the organization is something you have to work on. So I tell you that because it is so important that you do that in your business, stay organized. And with that being said, I want to bring on this guy, my man, Nicholas Nick. Let me tell you, wait, before we get him on, this Nicholas Nick is one that I can just really relate to. Every time we talk, we just start having this rolling conversation of just truly understanding each other. It's really interesting and weird. Like, we met officially at the Family Power Day. And when we met at the Power Day, I mean, it just took off. Like, what he was able to do with lead generation, the way he's able to like give feedback to people. It was really crazy. And I get that vibe. And every time I see him, we like hit it off. And I know Nick knows this, I wanted him live. This is one like I really wanted live. No pre-record. I wanted this live because you'll see for yourself. And he's doing big things with a lot of investors, lead generation. And I love this guy. I love what he's doing. And we got to bring him on. So without further ado, let's bring him on the show. Nicholas Nick.
Hey.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude? I should have had my fiance hold a piece of paper that I ran through, and then I should have just busted out. I should have next time. Time, I'm calling it.
Yeah, man, I love it. It was great seeing you at Family Mastermind. Love seeing what you're doing, and I know when we were talking last week, we could talk about so much in real estate. We'll get to some of those things, but catching up. We were almost like catching up in a way, right. Not just at Family, but on the call. And just like, where you're at with things right now. Like, there's so much going on in your business. So right. Many leads coming in, so many people talking about them doing more and you're scaling. And I'm like, Nick, like, what's happening? Like, what are you going through right now that's helping you prepare to be even better tomorrow? And so
Right.
that I thought was going to be the really important conversation. What's
Yeah.
going on?
Yeah. Well, dude, business is blowing up. And, I was telling, my fiance the other day that I was like, lead mining isn't something that I am blowing up. Okay. Lead mining is blowing up, and it's my job to do my best to steward all the blessings that are coming out of it. Like, I'm holding on to the rocket that is lead mining, and I'm like, I'm not steering this thing, it's steering my life. So I've learned the best thing I can do is, nurture this gift. I've been given the tree of life, just like you were saying about organization. When lead mining came into my life, the same thing happened. Everything started to make sense, and now it really is an organism. I'm no longer in control of its growth. You can actually, for the first time ever, you can remove me from the business and it will still grow. Now, does that mean, will it still operate at a high level? I don't think it will do that yet, but it will still grow. And I think that it's been really interesting nurturing that. It's kind of like I birthed a son and he's 6 years old and he's already way better than me. And now I'm like, okay, I think you're parenting me, but I'll do what I can to make sure this is as easy on you as possible.
Yeah, and I can see that by going through those moments, right? Going through those things in your head, that's trying to help you become more of a high performer, more of a leader, more of a
Sure.
communicator with your
Right.
team, right?
Yeah.
But one thing that really stuck out to me when we were talking was talking about like getting out of your own way,
Yeah.
right? Getting out of your own way and how that has like related to your past. And you even quote, and this is you, being such a brat, blocking your own blessings.
Right.
Like get
Right.
the concept of you are creating that self block and not letting yourself get ahead.
Right.
Let's expand on like what's going on in your mind with that.
Well, like, being a brat, right? So like I feel like it's funny if we talk about a kid being a brat, that's annoying. That's a willful child, right? An adult being a brat, that's someone with self-respect. And it's ironic how, I don't know what age that shifts at, probably right at 20, when your parents stop yelling at you. But like there's a chance when you like hold your ground. Now, I used to work really hard and did a lot of things I was a restaurant manager for 13 years. So I did a lot of things in a past life that I told myself I'm never going to do again. So when we talk about being a brat that's blocking our blessings, maybe I shouldn't have committed so hard to not being the old me, right? So, like, for example, because I ran restaurants every day and I had to commute for an hour every day, I would then like things now that people invite me to, if they require my feet to be there, I don't often say yes because I don't like it when people tell me where my feet need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I mean, is that really like, do I really need to be such a brat? I mean, every time I show up, I'm like, oh my God, Al's here. Get over here. Give me a what's up, dude? How's it going? Wow, this is so great. Why don't I go to more of these? And I'm like, Nick, you just turned 3 things down, you know? And when we block our blessings like that, it's like I'm overtly committed to being such a new person that I want to shun old behaviors. However, I'm also a natural in a group setting from my 13 years in customer and restaurants, right? I'm actually a natural. So it's almost like learning to play in to my natural skills, maybe stop being such a brat, going to these events and really embracing them. Every time I go to an event, I don't even sell or pitch, but I get 8 appointments. I probably make $10,000 at lead mining. And I don't even care about that. But it's like when you add it all up, I'm like, this was great. I had a good time. I got to know people on a deeper level and I made money.
Right.
What, how better could this be? But the moments leading up to that, I'm like, God, I don't want someone to tell my feet where to go. Wah. And I'm now getting over that, right? I'm getting over that phase. I'm working on getting out of my comfort zone, and I know I'm keeping going here for a sec, but the other thing is, if I want to continue not paying Facebook marketing dollars, then even more so I need to go to these things, right? If I don't want to be stuck on the marketing tit that is paid ads, which nobody wants to be, we all want to be optionally in paid ads. We don't want to be, I got to have these ads perform or I don't have a business. But if I want to keep that momentum, then even duly, I need to kill this brat inside of me that sometimes blocks my blessings.
So that really gets into a whole lot of discipline, right? Like how you're able to control that,
Right.
because like you're it's so easy to revert back to the old ways if you're not focused on maintaining that vision of I don't want that. I
Right.
don't want to keep doing that, right? It's great to like be gung ho about, oh yeah, this is how I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen. I'm not going to be that style, but like how are you each and every day like mentally saying I'm going to not do this. I'm not going to overlap from your present and past. I'm not going to over flinch from your past, things that you were doing before,
Right.
or as you said, like giving yourself permission to evolve. Like,
Right.
what are those disciplines?
Yeah, so I think it's just understanding things aren't probably what you think they are, right? Like, you know, I also hold a lot of boundaries with people, right? Like I do it naturally. And I like boundaries, maybe too much. So, with me, I catch myself drawing boundaries in the beginning with things, and then as the day comes closer, I'm like, I actually, I would like to go.
Right.
I know I said
Amazing.
I wasn't interested 2 months ago. Well, the time is here, and I was wrong. And so, and I think the short answer is awareness, right? So, what are some of the tools for discipline? And I think it's awareness that you're undisciplined, in the first place. And then awareness that, I'll give you another example. I think a lot of entrepreneurs do this, but it's so easy for us to default to no. Okay. Like
Mhm.
we own the business. Employee comes up with an idea. Nah, no, no. And it's like we have like all these things and thoughts and fears and all this other stuff. And then one thing I've been catching myself doing is after I say no, I'm like, and what I've been doing is I've been owning that to the employee. Okay.
Mhm.
Hey, what's up? Earlier, if it's a private meeting, I call them privately, but if it's public, I address it publicly. Hey, Sally, earlier I said that wasn't a good idea. I was wrong. That was a great idea. Why don't we do that? And what I try to do is I try to own my mistakes, awareness around the mistakes, and then owning it. I love owning it. I think when you're forced to clean up after yourself, you handle it differently. And one little story from my restaurant career is every once in a while you'd get like a sneaky employee, and they'd be like, all right, Nick, have a good night. Yeah, good night.
Yeah.
And then someone goes, hey, Nick, did you just send them home? And I'm like, no, sure didn't. And then they'll be like, well, you said goodnight to me. I'm like, well, look, I say goodnight to anyone who says that to me past 10 o'clock at night. Right. And what I would do when that happened was I would go out and I would do all the work that they didn't do myself, even though I was the manager. And then the servers are like, Nick, you're good, man. We got you. And I'm like, no, no, no. No, because I'm writing this guy up tomorrow and I'm telling him that I did all of his work. And it's because I made a mistake and I let the team
Mhm.
suffer. And I was like, you want me to clean up my own mess. Now it's like, and I think that's what I try to do. So awareness, cleaning it up, and then doing better next time. I think the hardest part is the awareness. At what point, the hardest part is realizing that one of your principles that you live by isn't serving you anymore. I think
Mhm.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, I feel like I can really relate to that from even things that even happened today in the law firm, and just like reviewing files and like seeing things, as the boss, as the leader, and you
Right.
got the team, and the team's like preparing things as well. And then you see something and you're like, it brings you back to like those old moments of like, well, why did this happen? What is this? What's going on? And then, we have that talk, and then you reflect later and you're like, wait a second. No, this has got to have a different change. This has got to have a different tune to really communicate how we evolve, like how we do things moving forward, right? Because it's easy
Right.
to have that like instant reaction, right?
Yeah. Right.
Snap. But it's how you handle it, and then it's how you also not just handle it then, but how you look back and say, how would that have been different? And then
Right.
how are you going to move forward with the team on everything? And then that changes them as well. So like, the whole idea of like evolving for you, I see that
Right.
because you just constantly are an innovator, a thinker, and you're not just like, oh, I've grown and there's stunted
I'm
growth. Like,
done.
there's
Right.
there's unlimited growth for you.
Right.
So that unlimited growth leads to other opportunities and then change. And you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I shouldn't be doing that anymore. You do
Right.
that. You get into that, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
Same idea.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the interesting thing. I think one of my secret sauces might be action taking, and I was telling my fiance, clearly she's the only person I speak to in my life, but I was telling, my fiance the other day, or actually it was just today, and this guy made a proposition. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that because then this and this. And she goes, oh, Nick, you're so wise to say all those things. And I was like, that's not wisdom, that's experience. I already said yes to an agreement like that last time and it didn't work out. So I don't have to say yes again. I can just fast forward and say, let's not do that because we're not going to like each other at the end of that agreement. Because I already know, because I made it with two other people and I don't like those two other people anymore.
Yeah, you're setting the communication up front.
Right. Well, and not only am I setting it up front, but one of the secrets is the action taking, right? And I think that so like one of the things at lead mining, for example, a lot of customers ask me and they go, can we do this? No, we don't do that. But it's never because I said so. It's actually because I said yes to that 4 years ago, and here's exactly what happened. You know what I mean? And,
So I don't do it anymore.
right.
Exactly. 100%.
But that's where I think a lot of people shortchange experience. And you don't get experience unless you take action. So if you're always procrastinating, I don't even mind procrastination. I actually think perfectionism is 1,000 times worse than procrastination. But anyways, it's like, but if you're always putting it off, you're never taking that action and you're never creating a baseline for your education. Something not working is way better than something that doesn't. Did you know you almost learn nothing when things go perfect?
Mm.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
I had a really bad realtor once, and she was the worst realtor in the world. And I had to chase her around for every little thing. But at the end of it, I was like, I know everything that a realtor has to do now. And it's like when you think about that, we always whenever someone's incompetent at their job, we have to like learn their job
Mhm.
sometimes, and then that really helps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the action taking 100%.
Right.
So speaking of action taking, because I mean, there's a whole mindset to the entrepreneurship. And then we have actually doing deals, leads, generation,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's like that component. And so you're seeing, and so everybody knows, like Nick is one of the ones that like I've actually personally seen his ability to scrape data, pull data, get spreadsheets of, specific lead sources or just data itself. And like it's so unique to see that, because when you're trying to either go after leads or you're trying to if you're trying to like tap into a lead source with maybe the skip tracing or the text messaging, it helps to have that. It helps to have that kind of resource. So, Nick, like, what are you seeing as the hot trends, the hot ticket items lately with the way the real estate market is? Like, whether it's the type of leads that seem to be really hitting hard, or maybe it's the type of messaging, the type
Right.
of delivery that seems to be getting a hold of a lot more sellers, people that
Sure.
want to just offload the property.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's a couple things there. The first thing is, a lot of people think there's secret lists. There's not. There really isn't. My favorite list is the absentee list. I really call the absentee list the master list. Okay. And I call it the master list because everyone is on that. What the human brain sometimes does is it says, because this is an absentee list, it mustn't be a divorce list. It mustn't be a pre-foreclosure list. Well, people on the absentee list are dealing with divorce, pre-foreclosures. They're dealing with trees falling on their houses. So they have vacant homes. So all those people also exist on absentee lists. So that's my number one favorite list. But the reality is there is no ninja list. What there is there's good locations. Okay. And then there's bad locations. Like I've got like 6 markets that just stink for cold calling and text messaging. And they work. So anyone's like, oh no, not those markets. No, they work. You just need a bigger budget. And you know what? In these 6 markets I'm about to name, you need a bigger budget for any lead generation method you're trying to do. But off the top of my head, it's definitely Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, Houston, Dallas, Phoenix, and anywhere in Southern California. Okay. So yeah. So any of those places are really expensive lead generation places. So one thing that I say, when you say what's working, there's 2 things that are working. One is land. Okay.
100%.
The land community found me this year, and that's why we're up 33% in sales.
Right.
I mean, they find me, they hire me, they close a deal, they hire me again, they close more deals, and they just never stop. It's been a blessing to both of us, the land community.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Me. So land, and I've seen land work everywhere except for Disney World, Orlando area. And then again, that Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth area, it can be a little tough in there. But land campaigns work great everywhere. Now, then there's houses. Okay. Now, houses, I want us to think of fishing when we think of houses. Okay. So imagine the most popular fishing spots in town are the fishing spots with public boat ramps. Okay. That's where anyone can pull their boat up to and drop it in there and go. Those places have the least fish in them, guaranteed, because all these boats are in them. The best lakes in the world or in your neighborhood are the ones with no public boat ramp. And you literally have to carry your boat through somebody's yard. And because no one's in that lake. Okay. Right. Well, that market exists in almost every market. If you relate that to real estate, it's exactly how real estate is. These big shiny objects like Miami, let's use the ones I just named, Miami, Orlando, Atlanta, those are the lakes with the boat ramps in them, right? We know that's where all fishermen are going to go their first day out, right? So we don't want to go where everyone else is going. So what we want to do is find the markets in your market that is that lake. You got to carry your boat to the yard. It's a little bit less appealing. It's less touristy.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so that's what we found. Now, I call that suburban and rural areas to keep it short. Okay. But if you're in one of the more saturated markets, you have to find it. It is more like where is the lake with no boat ramps in it? You really have to chisel it out. But in short, for houses, suburban and rural markets are really blowing up with lead flow. And then with land, it's really almost nationwide what's blowing up for leads at the moment.
Yeah, I will say that I 100% agree with you on land. Yeah. Land seems to be one of the hot topics with probate right now. There's I'm seeing so many. First of all, The amounts in the last 3 weeks it's been crazy. The leads
Really?
coming, yeah, oh yeah, especially on land deals. There's homes, there's things that pop up, but the land is really hot. And like you said, you nailed it. It's not necessarily the metros, but it's all these other
Right.
areas outside, right?
Yeah.
So check this out, Nick. You're gonna love this. So I was at LPG, spoke at LPG. Shout out to everybody at LPG. Love being there. And then I went to the multifamily conference last Thursday, and I remember being in a round table and just talking about, oh, what are the hot areas, what's going on, and I said, maybe the land's big in the Florida area, and a lot were like, oh, it's like oversaturated, there's no liquidity, and I'm like, am I in the right room right now? Like,
Right.
there's no way that's true, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like you said, it's the suburban and the rural markets
Yeah.
that the people aren't focusing on
Right.
because everybody's so focused on city infill lots, things that haven't been picked up, right between buildings. People aren't focusing on the gold mine that's out
Right.
there, like you said.
They're too focused. They're way too hyper focused, and then they only see Florida as Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, Orlando. Well, guess what? If those are the only cities you see, you are going to think real estate sucks here, because that's not where you should be hunting. You should be hunting around those markets in the more suburban rural areas. And I think that that's, one of the benefits.
Yeah, and when you're getting into those types of leads, like what would you say are some great tips and tricks for really tapping into the skip tracing and the data? Because a lot of those landowners, they don't live there, they live out of state, right?
Right. Yeah.
And I know there's different people that do marketing, whether it's direct mail or do cold call, but like, what would you say has been on even through your business, as you've seen from other investors that are really trying to tap into that? What's working on the skip tracing side?
Yeah, so I think with houses, it's absentees. Land, what I recommend is really going about 30 to 45 miles out of a metro area and choosing 1 to 20 acres. And then we can pull lists at Lead Mining. I also know that PropStream has good land lists as well. Those are like the big mainstream ones. There's some stuff that gets pretty. I heard there's something called Land Vision out there. That's like $25K a year. That wow. I heard talked to a client the other day, and he said that me and 5 people throw in on it, and then we all just split it, which is pretty good. And then when it comes to skip tracing, we get very accurate results. So we get the right person on the phone over 80% of the time, which means that 8 out of 10 people that pick up the phone actually own the property, that we are calling about. And I think that is such a big windfall. What we see is the calling and the texting work really well at bringing in the numbers, but then the biggest struggle becomes the follow-up,
Yeah. So how do people get better at the follow-up then?
Well, it's really, I always say this, we make it so painless at Lead Mining that it's easy for them to disrespect the lead. And I know anyone listening to that's like, there's no way I would ever disrespect a lead. Yeah, hire me, get 15 leads, and tell me how many you actually end up calling. Okay. And it's because, it's something happens in our brain. And I think because you just push that big green button on my website and you pay, that's not enough pain for the average investor to go through. And they get the lead and they read the notes and they go, yeah, maybe the next one will just look a little bit better. Maybe the next one is going to say they actually want to take 50 cents on the dollar that it's worth, and it's like, I think that there's a big culture difference. People want to close deals, but they don't always know what it takes to work the lead, right? I think they want the lead to be like a scratch off.
Right. Yeah,
and,
there it is. Yeah.
Right. And instead it's actually a waltz. And then you really have to learn to dance somehow. Yeah. If you refuse to dance, no pretty girls are going to come up and ask you to dance.
Yeah. Nick, it's funny you say that. So today I had a probate call, And I felt almost like an investor because the lady, she wants to sell the property, but she can't sell it until we get the whole probate done. And it's a different kind of probate, but I was thinking like on the investor side, like they needed to sell the property, like get the whole thing sold, but she can't get the money right away. So I almost felt like there was a lot of like creative thinking about like how is this going to what is another way we can get this done for her. It's a win-win. She stays in the property
Right.
and gets it sold. And so like you described, it's like a waltz, right? It's not just a bing, here's the probate. Like sometimes it takes a little bit of like
Right.
what are their pain points? What are they going through? What do you what how can you solve that problem but still get them what they want and it's a win for everybody?
Right.
And like you said, people think it's a scratch off and
Right.
and they don't know what we're going through every day.
Yeah, and I try to tell people it's, and I'm working on creating a better phrase for this, but you have to unfluke your business,
Mm.
right? And what happens is, yeah, I made 50,000. How? I don't know. I don't know how. I don't know what I said. I don't know what I did. And my sister called. I gave it to my mentor, and I made 50,000. Right? And it's like the truth is that person did a lot of things right in that process, but they're not even giving themselves the respect that they deserve by analyzing what happened. What did they do right? What did they do wrong? And I that's exactly what I preach all the time is we have to look at it. We have to make sure that it is not a fluke. Okay. And the only way to unfluke your business is to create systems. I tell all of my investors, all of them, and especially today, I had 14 calls today, which was awesome. Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
lot to have 14.
It was busy. It was busy. And I was telling this guy, I said, the number one thing you can do is actually call these leads and then realize that they are your opportunity to making more money. Don't look at the leads. Don't dismiss the lead. Don't say the next one's hotter, right? We need to get in their world, ask them questions, get them to like us, and then move forward on the property. I always recommend moving at the seller's pace.
Mhm.
And I can tell you right now, if the seller wants you to speed up, they are going to let you know. But if you move too fast, that's when you're gonna, like, if you move too fast with this conversation earlier, you would have, hey, yeah, so are we gonna do this or not? Yeah, well, I don't have the money. Well, then it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's not actually what we're trying to do here. We need to really extract this data from them and find out, and this resonates with me, find out how you can be of service. I think that's where the money comes in. If you're like, I'm making $50,000. Well, if you were a huge service to that person, you wouldn't feel any kind of negative way about that at all. So figure out how you can serve them and earn that assignment fee.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I saw that today.
Yeah.
I can see this is
Right.
what I mean. I relate to what you talk about, Nick. Like,
Right.
we're standing at Family Mastermind for like 25 minutes, like just like going back and forth. Like, I get you. What would you say is like another hot topic thing when it comes to like calling and texting and follow up? Because I know the texting thing has been a huge issue
Yeah.
for a lot of people. And you were telling me that on the phone, and
Yeah.
I've heard about that from other people, like with the providers. How are you able to, or how have you seen people overcome those new roadblocks to people's success?
I think the A2P thing, it's all just about, what's the phrase? Regulation,
Mhm.
right? And regulation's going to tighten up. But drugs are illegal too. But it's like everyone's like, oh, texting is illegal. Yeah, so are drugs. Okay, like nothing's stopping anybody. Okay, we're gonna find a way to overcome. Now at Lead Mining, we've been very lucky with texting, and I got it with the provider 2 years ago, and they made me go on the up and up 2 years ago. So our phone numbers are registered to my EIN, and the carriers even have a sample message of what I send out to everybody. Okay. Hey, have you ever considered selling blah, 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 our message, right? And it's approved. And it kind of astonishes me. Our delivery rate is still super high. Our contacts are going great. We're actually getting more leads than ever on texting. You know, it actually just hit me probably because no one else's text messages are going through.
Yeah.
It's probably what it is.
Better
But
check that out.
yeah, but anyways, and we've been fortunate. But just like most things, I only found my resource now because 2 years ago, my texting kept getting pulled out from under me. And just like all entrepreneurs, I bet even you too, we learn so much when bad things happen to us. 2 years ago, when my texting got shut down, I was like, I need to find something that like can never get shut down. And then I
Right.
found this guy and he made me jump through all these hoops. And I'm like, well, these hoops seem like they're not going to get me shut down. And lucky for me, I was right. It was a smart play, but it took the problem arriving in my business for me to even pursue the strategy that we are using. But texting's working great. I know that some of the bigger guys are struggling. I heard that launch control went down. Customers call me the same day, right? They're like, "Hey, my texting just tanked. I need 50,000. I need 10,000 texts." That right.
And it's when you're doing something really important right at that moment. It's monsoon, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's great. I love it when there's industry crises and I'm exempt, and it often flocks customers to me because they're like, "Oh, I've actually been watching you. I just had this other thing where that other thing just went down," and I'm like, "Well, here I am."
Yeah. And that's great that you're able to help the others figure out the loopholes or
Right.
just be able to be compliant
Yeah.
with what the new regulations are, right? Because texting is a huge thing for people.
Well,
It's a
yeah.
huge thing.
Well, and that's a point that I make to a lot of my clients too is, you know, we have never had a client receive any kind of negative feedback or negative side effect from using our services. I do know that there's people out there that are poaching, cold calling, and suing text messengers. But I believe it's the way that we execute, the way that we move. The people, the sellers don't even know my clients' names. They don't know my clients' phone numbers. They couldn't sue anybody if they wanted to. And I think that level of anonymity, is that the word?
Anonymity.
If we could get Mike to put that at the bottom of the screen whenever, but if we can get that level of anonymity, that's what protects people. I think as an attorney, if they can't find you, they can't hurt you.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we're like moving in the shadows, we're doing anything that deserves to be hurt, but there are people out there, especially in American culture, whose number one priority is if they feel bothered to bother the person back on a very extreme level, and we kind of help protect our clients against that as well.
Yeah. And having anonymity is like it's what a lot of people look for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nick, let me ask you this question. So this was something that we really connected on when we were at the Power Day, and this is what kind of just sprouted the idea of what we were working on, which is getting into marketing, right? And you're huge at marketing,
Sure.
right? Whether it's social media or leveraging, databases or just really getting your outreach out there. And when we were talking, I'm thinking, hey, like, what if you pay for this? What do you pay for this? What if you get this list and pay for this? And you were like, dude, when you start with marketing, my favorite thing is free, right? I still remember you said that, the way you said it.
Yeah.
So true, because leveraging the low-hanging fruit when it comes to marketing, whether it's doing videos on social media, sharing wins on social media. I've seen some of your posts recently on people that have been using the services and it's working. And like being able to market yourselves or market your services, and you're big on the free component before you go to the next level.
Absolutely.
Talk about how you leverage these social media world, the marketing world, for not just business, but helping others generate business.
Right. I think I'm very lucky, in most things that I do. I don't feel like I'm marketing. Like all the people are like, you're the best marketer. And I'm like, I'm just, every time I get a positive text, I screenshot it and I make a post about it. Every time something, I think I'm good at celebrating. And I think that that makes it look like I'm an amazing marketer. And I'm not saying I'm not an amazing marketer, but I'm saying that I'm a celebrator. And that everyone's like, dude, like you're so good at like sharing your wins. And I'm like, well, if a tree falls and no one's around, it does not make a noise. And that is a fact.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's a fact. I remember that that riddle, whatever the hell that is. I thought about that a lot in my teen years. And because it's very interesting. And the truth is, if something doesn't have an impact, it does not have an impact. That doesn't matter. And we just went to a national forest the other day and there's all these trees and they're laying down. I'm like, has that tree always been laying down? Has it? So it doesn't even matter if they fall. But so I'm always big on sharing my wins. And I just found a way to do that organically. Now I with the tools we have at our fingertips with AI, I've made thousands of videos. I've filmed 3 courses, 2 that I never even released. Okay. So one thing I've done recently is I've taken these videos, upload them to YouTube, kept them unlisted so no one can see them. And then I have Chat GPT. I have this YouTube summary app installed. And I say, write a blog in the first person about everything in this video. And it's basically a beautifully transcribed version. I was like, wow. So I literally have 350 blogs right now, and they actually aren't written by AI. They're written by my videos I made that I finally found a fucking use for 5 years after making them, And so it's the other thing is I don't want to get too far behind in technology. I'm not on TikTok. I suck at Instagram. I'm riding Facebook till the wheels fall off. My people are there, my communities are there, and I think that that's another big tip. Focus on what's working for you. And don't try to be the Instagram person. If you're not an Instagram person, that's fine. Double down on Facebook if that's where most of your energy lies. So I've been great at focusing on what's working, seeing what's natural to me, because I know I don't have the capacity to learn another social media platform. I didn't even know what stories were till like a year and a half ago. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm a Facebook guy,
Yeah.
but it's like focus on what you know, stay in your lane and celebrate every chance you get, because you know what? No one else is going to tell anybody what you do for a living.
Except yourself. Yeah. 100%. Exactly. Pulled it right out. It's so true.
Yeah.
Nobody
gives a shit.
Nobody's gonna know until you tell them.
Right.
I mean, I think I even said that on a clip one time. Then I think I said like the ones that get it, like you get it, I get it. I know Mike gets it. I know. I'm sure Teresa gets it. And everybody that's watching gets it. It's like if you don't tell people what you do, nobody knows what you do.
Right.
That's why you see my reels over probate again,
Right.
and again and again and again. Same thing with you.
You're synonymous.
And it just becomes you're the lead guy.
Right. Well,
right?
You know what blew me away when I was in middle school? That I thought Kleenex was the name of tissues. Okay. Like, think about that, right? Xerox became a verb, and it's not. It's the name of a company. It's a noun. And what we're saying is your name should be synonymous. No one says Al Nicoletti and doesn't think about probates. No one says Nicholas Nick and doesn't think about lead mining. And if they do, you stink. You stink at what you're doing. You haven't done it right. And then so I highly recommend make sure people know, find a tasteful way, celebrate your wins. In the beginning, share your story, write some blogs, share your expertise. One thing I would do that I found a great way to do, and that's just provide value. Look up other people struggling with what you're great at in Facebook groups, and don't even pitch. Just be like, oh, at my company, we do this. Don't then tag your company. Just say that, and you'd be surprised how many comments are seen by hundreds of, oh, hey, I saw your comment in a group. Hey, I saw this comment. I've actually found competitors' Facebook ads and commented on them. And I had a guy call me and go, dude, I saw you talking shit to one of your competitors on Facebook. And I was like, this looks like a cool guy. I gotta call him.
Oh my gosh.
And he ended up purchasing that same day because I made a comment on my competitor's ad, right? But it's like, you gotta, if you're not, whatever, you gotta put yourself out there.
You're making noise.
Right.
And so it's the one that's making it the loudest.
Yeah.
Gets all the attention, right?
Yeah, if your tree's going to fall, it needs to fall in the highest populated area out there.
Yeah. Oh, Teresa's got some good stuff. She said, I think people struggle so much with sharing their wins because we have been trained to not brag. There is unlearning that needs to happen to understand you're sharing, not bragging.
Well,
Great.
and let me tell you, my father, God rest his soul, will be the first person to tell you the one mistake I made with Nick is I think I made him too confident. As the one thing, my dad says. And I was not an only child, but I was kind of raised like one. So I'm like a perfect recipe of the right amount of brag, the right amount of support. And what I try to do is I try to let other people brag on me. So like, look at this screenshot I just got. Man, does this feel good, right? Rather than maybe, even though I do brag on myself quite a bit too. I hear you over there. But I do brag on myself too a little bit. But I think that's like an important way to start. And what a great point from Teresa. And I love hearing perspectives like that because my life is so not that Teresa saying that actually puts me in like a Quentin Tarantino movie where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so blessed to even think the way I do. I never even thought people are scared to brag about themselves, but of course they are. How can I? And I literally have all these thoughts that go through my head when I see stuff like that. So thank you so much for sharing, Teresa.
Yeah, it's a different way of thinking, right? I mean, everybody's got a different style to how they do it and what they're doing. But I mean, you're sharing good stuff, good information, good value out there. Nick, one thing before we get to the final conclusion, which is, I think you told me about this. I think it was during the pandemic when the pandemic happened, and a lot of people at that time had so much money invested in the marketing and Facebook ads, and then they pulled out. And your thought was, when you pull out, I'm gonna push back in.
Right.
And so I feel like that's kind of happening right now with the way the economy is and how some investors are, a lot of people are getting tight with money. And what do they go to first? Unfortunately, their marketing.
Right. Yeah. It's the first thing to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed the dip in, the number of probates and things that was happening because people, I think, have stopped marketing. So the point I'm going to, because I know you agree with this, is in a market like this, when people pull back their marketing, this is the perfect time to jump in.
Right. Yeah. When you got less people duking it out, exactly like I was saying about the texting leads that are blowing up, and that's really one of the beauties of our service is we can deploy tomorrow in a market. So I think what's cool too, to support what you're saying, is the speed of execution, right? If you can go in and test it out and see if that works and learn, then I think that's super brilliant. But if you have to fire up a lead gen machine, hire a lead manager, get cold callers, find the right dialer, then you're totally going to snare yourself in your marketing efforts. But, right now there is some uncertainty out there. Our sales are way up. So I'm definitely seeing an explosion, but I'm seeing that in the land side. When it comes to houses, I mean, houses are getting tougher. There's definitely no doubt about it. And I think that's going to require a lot of additional education on the investor's part. But I'd say, if you hear people pulling out, like to what your point was, when COVID happened, I didn't even realize everyone was pulling out. I was like, now's a great time to learn Facebook. I'm locked inside my house. And then I got $25, unless you're a super Facebook ads nerds, you don't even know how great this is, but I got like $25 to $35 purchases on repeat for a year. And I didn't even know how good that was until it went away. And now it's like $50 to $75 purchases. And it's like, wow, you don't even realize how good you had it.
Yeah. I mean, look, the market the way it is right now, you just got to pay attention, listen to people like Nick, pay attention to the experts that are seeing this on the ground level with other people doing deals like this, right? Whether it's marketing, whether it's lead gen, skip tracing, you got to pay attention to what's going on in current events. Not talking about things that happened before, but now. And it's all about the now. Nick, it's so fun. I mean, I you know, it's always great seeing you, but I always am so excited to talk to you because I learn from what you're going through and
Sure.
all your mindset, man.
Yeah,
Like just being at that power day and you giving feedback to everybody and like pointing out the things people were not focused on. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
everybody, it was almost like, hey, I'm different. I'm going to actually point this out because nobody else is. And I
Right.
love hearing that perspective from you, Nick. I think that's a fantastic thing. You keep doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
It's an asset. It's a skill. And I love seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Nick, as I do at the end of my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts.
Okay.
And I do it to allow the guests to say something that hasn't been said or reiterate a point or just really just hammer home concepts. And you name it. It could be one word. It could be 5 minutes. You do your thing.
Sure.
But I just want this to be your moment, Nick's moment. So without further ado, final words, final thoughts, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think the big theme that keeps coming up for me recently is bandwidth, and I think that we often don't respect how little bandwidth we actually have, how much other commitments we've made takes up our bandwidth. And I think it's just really important for us to be extremely realistic. Bandwidth is not a good or a bad thing. Doesn't matter if it's really high or it's really low. Actually, someone with really high bandwidth might find themselves in a fucking pickle because they might say yes to too many things because their bandwidth is so high. But what I'm getting at is understand what's happening in your life right now and if you want it to change. And if you do want it to change, it's probably going to take 2 to 3 times more bandwidth than you think it's going to. Because A, you got to keep up what currently is working, which might be your 9-to-5 job. Might be a great relationship with a loved one. Okay. And then you still have chores, life, and feeding yourself. To squeeze in a passion project isn't as easy as it used to be. And I don't share any of this to scare anyone, but just to set proper expectations. Understand where a lot of your bandwidth is going and manage it. Make sure that you're able to really lower something. Hey, you know what? I used to do paintball every weekend. Okay. Well, if I wanted to do something else, maybe I can't do paintball too, right? Maybe I don't have it in me. I need to be honest with myself on where I'm going to go. And so I would really consider bandwidth. And then the other thing is, how easy are you making your life when doing these new decisions, right? How many tasks are you making yourself jump through? My company is a perfect example. Just while I'm thinking about it, and is that if you're like, oh, I'm going to hire a lead gen team and I'm going to get a list and I'm going to skip trace it, like that's actually a lot of moving pieces to figure out. You come over to us, you just push the green button, and then you're like, oh, wow, I can have leads tomorrow and I don't have to figure this out. A service like mine returns bandwidth because you don't have to go, well, who should I call and what script should I use and what market's the best? I'm here to help with that. So in your own life, when you're trying to facilitate massive change, take a look at it and see where you can get your bandwidth back. Because I can promise you might feel like you're running on a hamster wheel because you're trying to take on something, but there's just not enough hours in the day.
Love it. I'm going to leave it right there.
Rock and roll.
Nick, it's been awesome, man.
Yeah.
I love it. Love talking to you, dropping great value, being practical and giving the perspective of being an owner or leader of a company. and just giving back and getting that perspective out there. So
Yeah. Thank
hey,
you so much.
always so fun having you, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, come out of the house. Don't just stay there. Like, get out a little bit. Like, I'm like amazed when I get to see him. Like, oh my gosh, he's out.
He's out. Yeah. I'm working on it. I'm working. This is the year.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good marketing strategy too. You're not out and about, and then when people see you, it's
right. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right. Well, let's catch up soon, man.
Yeah,
Thanks so much for being on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you having me.
All right, man. I'll see you soon.
See you guys.
All right, everybody. So if you didn't catch that in the beginning, highly recommend you go back and watch how Nick has really been focusing on discipline, his mindset when it comes to his business and how he's been running it lately. And then how it really transpires into what's happening with leads, lead gen, what's going on in the markets with texting and the hot topic items with land and all that stuff. You don't want to miss any of these episodes because there's so much that goes into these episodes and the guests bring all that value. Of course, you got the link tree. Scan the QR code. Scan the QR code right there and you'll get all everything. You'll get the iTunes, Spotify, Google Play. You'll get all the social media channels right there. And of course, we love the fan interaction. I love seeing Teresa. I know Teresa, she must see like the Gonzalo episode and Tim, and she knows it's like pre-recorded. But then she sees this, she knows it's live. I love it. Thanks for being on, Teresa. And look, Dan the man, he's on. I love it. What's going on, man? I love that he's watching. And Hans, he's watching. So just so you know, the show, we're live. Ask questions. Feel free to participate. We love when everyone's participating, dropping comments. You want to participate and give your perspective. We love it. We want to see what y'all are thinking. So with that, another night on the Al Nicoletti Show. You don't want to miss all the shows and any of the episodes. Another show next week, Wednesday night. I'll see you all then. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.